The world of Renaris once shined with silver towers and floating gardens, a peaceful planet filled with music and color. The sky used to glow blue, and the air carried the scent of crystal flowers. But now everything was gone, burned, broken, silent. Lizera stumbled through the smoke and ash, her hands shaking as she tried to stand. The ground beneath her feet was black glass melted by plasma fire. All around her were ruins of her home city, crushed buildings, shattered domes, the remains of people she once knew. Her lungs burned as she coughed, trying to breathe in the thick air. Above her, the sky was not blue anymore. It was red and gray, filled with the heavy hum of Dominion warships drifting through the clouds like monsters searching for survivors. The Korth Dominion had come without warning. Their attack was fast, merciless, and almost playful. They didn't just want control, they wanted fear. They wanted to destroy the spirit of the Vren people. Lizera fell to her knees beside a broken communication tower. Her eyes were full of tears, but not weakness, pure pain. She was a scientist once, a signal engineer who studied deep space frequencies. Now she was the last living thing in a dead city. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Why did they do this?" Far above, laughter echoed through the comms of the Dominion ships. The invaders laughed as they broadcast victory across the system, mocking the screams of the dying. To them it was a game. "Burn them all," one Dominion captain said. "Let the galaxy see what happens to those who refuse the Dominion." Lizera clenched her fists. She wanted to scream, but there was no one left to hear. Her family, her friends, her students, gone. Every light of her civilization snuffed out in a single day. Only one thought remained in her mind. Someone must know what happened here. She crawled toward the half-destroyed signal console. Sparks jumped from its shattered surface. The main antenna was gone, but a backup relay still hummed weakly. She wiped the ash from its screen, her fingers trembling as she tried to activate it. The words flickered, "Manual transmission mode available." Her heart pounded. She looked up at the dark sky where Dominion ships still glowed like vultures. Then she whispered, "If anyone out there can hear this, my name is Lizera of Renaris. My world is gone. The Dominion has burned us to ash." Her voice broke as she continued. "We were peaceful, we never wanted war. We only wanted to live, but they came and they laughed. If the old stories of humanity are true, if they still exist out there in the dark, please, I beg you, help us." Her words vanished into static. The signal raced into deep space, weak, almost invisible. But it carried her desperation like a spark of hope. Outside, a squad of Dominion soldiers walked through the ruins. Scanning for survivors, one of them found her transmission console still glowing. "She's trying to call for help?" He sneered, kicking it aside. The others laughed. "Let her send her little prayers, no one will come for her." Lizera hid behind the rubble, her heart pounding as their boots passed inches away. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Only when their footsteps faded did she dare to rise again. The laughter of the soldiers echoed in her mind, louder than the burning wind. She looked at the smoke rising from the ruins and whispered, "You'll see. Someone will come." Her eyes glowed faintly blue from tears reflecting the firelight. For a moment, she thought of the old legends, stories whispered among children of a race that once stood against the darkness. Humans, they were called, beings who came from a death world, fierce and unbroken. No one had seen them for generations. Some said they vanished, others said they became myths. But Lizera wanted to believe. She had studied old frequencies before. Strange human codes buried deep in the noise of the galaxy. Maybe, just maybe, someone out there was still listening. A soft hum filled the broken console. The transmission light flickered again. Something had responded. She stared at it in shock. Is someone there?" she whispered. But before she could hear anything, an explosion shook the ground, throwing her backward into the dust. The Dominion bombers were leaving, setting fire to what remained. She watched as the final flames consumed the last standing tower of her city. Her body ached, her vision blurred, but her heart didn't give up, even as everything burned. The faint light on the transmitter kept blinking, a sign that her message had escaped the planet's gravity well. High above, the Dominion fleet laughed again. "Let this be a warning," said the voice of their commander over the open broadcast. "This is the fate of those who defy the Dominion." The laughter carried across the stars, cold and cruel. But somewhere far beyond known space, beyond the Dominion's borders, deep within the void where old signals sleep, something stirred. A dark metallic shadow shifted in the silence of interstellar night. Ancient systems came online one by one, unseen for centuries. A single red light blinked awake inside the hull of a massive ship, drifting among the asteroids. And a deep human voice spoke for the first time in 100 years. Signal received. Lasera, lying among the ashes, didn't know it yet, but her cry for help had awakened something powerful, something the galaxy had forgotten. Humanity had heard her, and this time they were coming. In the endless silence of space, a faint signal moved through the void, crossing dust clouds, dead worlds, and forgotten ruins. It was weak, cracked, nearly erased by cosmic noise. But still it carried the trembling voice of Lysera from a burned world far beyond known borders. On the old Mars orbital station Argus 9, the night was quiet. The station was a relic, rusted panels, humming generators. Half the systems decommissioned decades ago. Only a small crew remained, monitoring ancient frequencies that no one had used in centuries. Commander Hayes sat in the control room, his eyes half closed, staring at old holoscreens filled with static. He was an old soldier, once part of Earth's last defense fleet, but now he was just a watcher of ghosts. The galaxy had long forgotten about humans, and humans had learned to forget the galaxy. He reached for his cup of cold coffee when the console beside him beeped. A soft, distant sound, almost like a heartbeat. Hayes frowned, tapping the screen. "That's not local," he muttered. The transmission was old-style, analog, full of distortion. He turned up the volume, and through the static, a trembling voice broke through. "If anyone can hear me, please. Humanity once fought the stars, if they still exist. We need you." Hayes froze. The words sent a chill down his spine. He leaned closer, heart pounding. "Did she just say, humanity?" He replayed the message again and again, cleaning the audio. His AI assistant, Kira, flickered to life on the nearby screen, her voice calm and curious. "Commander, this signal doesn't match any known frequency band in current use. It's at least 2 centuries out of date," Hayes whispered. "Then how is it still reaching us?" Kira paused, triangulating. "Source located, outer spiral arm. Coordinates match the Korth Dominion sector." The moment she said that name, Hayes felt his stomach twist. He hadn't heard it spoken in decades, not since the Silent Treaty. The Dominion was a ghost of the past, an empire of cruelty that once enslaved half the stars. Humanity had fought them before, long ago, and both sides nearly burned the galaxy to ash. After that, Earth withdrew from galactic affairs. Sealing their fleets away, Hayes stared at the screen, watching the weak signal blink again. "Someone's still out there," he whispered. "Someone who believes in us." He stood up and walked toward the old terminal marked restricted access. Echelon 9 command protocol. It was sealed behind layers of digital locks untouched since before he was born. "Kira," he said quietly, "open it." "Commander, Echelon 9 is classified as extinction-level authorization, are you sure?" Hayes didn't answer. He just stared at the words glowing red on the terminal. The face of a crying alien woman echoed in his memory, the way her voice cracked when she said, "They burned us to ash." He clenched his jaw. "Open it," Kira hesitated, then complied. The lights in the station flickered. Old systems waking up like ancient beasts stirred from sleep. Deep beneath Mars, sealed bunkers rumbled. Fast engines reactivating after centuries of silence. Hayes entered his passcode, his voice steady but heavy. "Commander Nathan Hayes." "Authorization level Omega." A deep mechanical voice filled the control room. Echelon 9 recognized humanity's bomber fleet standby mode engaged. Outside the station, Mars itself began to change beneath the dust. Old hangar doors cracked open for the first time in generations, revealing hidden vaults of dark metal and engines the size of cities. Inside slept the Titan-class bombers, giant wings forged from black alloy, their surfaces engraved with the symbol of Earth's old defense command, a single red circle with wings of fire. Hayes watched the feeds as each hangar powered up. One after another. "They thought we were gone," he whispered. "They thought we forgot who we are." Kira's voice softened. "Commander, reactivating the bombers means revealing our existence to the galaxy again. Are you prepared for that?" Hayes looked up at the stars through the observation window, eyes reflecting the endless void. "She asked for help. That's all the reason we need, somewhere on Earth." Alarms began to echo in deep military silos. The old command networks reconnected, forgotten generals awakened from cryosleep, and massive data cores started to hum again. A planet that had been silent for centuries was now whispering in the dark. Across the fleet's internal channels, one by one, the AI systems of the Titan bombers reactivated. Their mechanical voices spoke in unison, awaiting target designation, awaiting coordinates, awaiting justice. Hayes sent the coordinates from Lysra's message into the system. His hand hovered for a moment above the confirmation switch. He thought about all the wars humanity had fought, all the times they were feared, all the reasons they had hidden away. Then he pressed the button. "Mission activated," said Kira. As the stars outside began to tremble with light deep in space, thousands of Titan bombers powered up their cores, their engines igniting with blinding blue fire. Each ship carried weapons that could erase continents. But more than that, they carried vengeance forged by memory. Hayes stood tall as the control panels glowed red and gold. "Let them laugh," he said softly. "Let them think we're myths. They won't be laughing when we arrive." Far away in the Korth Dominion's capital world, sensors suddenly detected strange distortions at the edge of the sector. Massive energy readings, unnatural and fast. The Dominion technicians stared at the readings, confused. "It can't be real," one of them whispered. "That kind of power hasn't been seen since the old wars, but it was real. Humanity was coming, silent and furious, and the galaxy was about to remember why it once feared Earth." In the grand halls of the Korth Dominion capital, laughter filled the air, cruel, arrogant, and endless. The high generals gathered around a massive holomap that displayed the burned surface of Renaris, red and black with smoke still rising from its ruins. General Vorath leaned back in his throne-like chair, his scaled hands clasped together. His cold yellow eyes gleamed as he replayed the last transmission from Lysra. The sound of her trembling voice echoed through the hall, pleading, desperate, weak, "If anyone can hear me." Humanity once fought the stars. At that line, the entire court burst into laughter again. "Humanity?" One of the officers snorted. "The ghosts? The fairy tales for alien children?" Vorath smirked. "Yes, the Death Worlders who vanished into dust. The ones who claimed to be protectors of peace while hiding behind myths. Tell your troops to laugh louder. Let the galaxy know what happens to those who beg to old legends." A recording drone hovered above them, broadcasting the laughter across Dominion channels. The soldiers at every outpost heard their commanders mock the myth of humans, repeating the same words again and again. "There are no humans left, there never were. Only stories for fools." But in the corner of the hall, one younger officer remained silent. His name was Serac, and though he too had been raised under Dominion pride, something about that signal bothered him. "General," he said softly, "our border sensors are picking up faint gravitational distortions near the edge of the system." Vorath waved a hand dismissively. "Probably phantom echoes from your broken scanners. Or maybe the ghosts of these so-called humans." His officers laughed again. But then another alert rang out, sharper, deeper, more urgent. "Sir," said a communications tech, "there's something real out there." Vorath frowned. "Define something." The tech's voice trembled. "Multiple energy signatures, unknown configuration. High mass, high velocity. They appeared suddenly. No warp trail, no jump gate, they're just there." The laughter stopped. The generals turned toward the holomap where distant red blips began to appear at the outer rim of Dominion space. "How big are they?" Vorath demanded. The tech swallowed. "Each one larger than a city, sir." The room went silent, then filled with nervous murmurs. One admiral leaned forward. "Send interceptors. Let's see what kind of toys our enemies are using this time." Out in the void, sleek Dominion interceptors launched from orbit. Their hulls glowing crimson, they flew toward the approaching unknowns, their sensors scanning empty space. At first there was nothing, just darkness, cold and quiet. Then suddenly the void lit up. 100 massive silhouettes emerged from behind a nearby moon, shaped like wings of steel and fire. Their hulls reflected no light, absorbing everything around them and on their sides. A single emblem burned faintly red, a circle crossed by wings, the symbol of Earth's old defense command. The Dominion pilots froze, their radar filled with ghost signals, their comms filled with static. Then a calm voice broke through their channels. "Low and human, this is humanity's bomber fleet. Transmission code Echelon 9, you laughed." The voice said coldly. "Now listen." Before the Dominion interceptors could react, the bombers moved. They didn't fire missiles or lasers. They released silent bursts of kinetic rods that hit faster than light. Each strike tore through the interceptors like paper, no explosions, no noise, just clean, Perfect destruction. On the Dominion capital world, alarms screamed across every city. Fleet Command tried to scramble a counterattack, but ships began disappearing before they could even leave orbit. One by one, their battle stations went dark. Their power grids failing. Impossible. Vorath roared, slamming his fist against the console. How can they disable our defenses without firing a shot? "General," shouted the communications officer, his voice cracking. "We're getting a direct message from the attackers. It's broadcasting across all frequencies." The screen flickered, static filled the air. Then a message appeared in bold white text on black background, followed by a cold mechanical voice. "We received your laughter." And then the sky above the Dominion capital turned to light. From orbit, the Titan-class bombers unleashed their payload, not of fire, but of thunder. Massive shock waves that shattered the sound barrier even in vacuum. The bombardment was precise, surgical, and terrifyingly beautiful. Every Dominion warship hit disintegrated into silent debris. Lysera, hiding aboard a stolen refugee vessel near the outer orbit, watched the impossible unfold. Her eyes widened as she saw streaks of blue fire descending through the clouds. Each impact illuminated the night like dawn returning to a cursed world. "Who are they?" whispered one of the survivors beside her. Trembling, Lysera smiled weakly through her tears. "They hurt us," she said softly. "The humans hurt us on the ground." General Vorath stumbled from his burning headquarters, staring at the sky. The once proud Dominion banners caught fire and burned to ash. His voice broke into disbelief. "They can't be real. They can't—" A shadow passed overhead. A Titan bomber drifted through the smoke like a god of war, its engines glowing red. A single beam of light scanned the surface, locking onto Vorath's location, and then, with a sound like the sky itself breaking, everything went white. The laughter that once echoed through the halls of the Dominion was gone, replaced by silence. For the first time in generations, the galaxy realized the truth. Humanity was not a myth. They had only been sleeping, waiting, watching, and now, the Deathworlders had returned. The stars above the Dominion worlds burned brighter than ever before. But it wasn't sunlight, it was the light of destruction. Titan-class bombers drifted across the void in perfect formation, each one the size of a city, their hulls gleaming black and silver. They didn't roar or shout, they moved with calm purpose, as if vengeance itself had taken form. Commander Hayes stood on the bridge of the lead bomber, horizon spear, staring at the battlefield displayed on the hollow screen. Every Dominion ship that tried to flee was already marked, every defense grid silenced before it could react. His voice was steady as he gave his command. "No civilian targets, no unnecessary damage. Only military installations, we strike clean." The crew responded as one, their discipline chilling in its precision. They weren't angry, they were focused. They weren't monsters, they were justice given metal wings. Hayes looked at the live feed from the surface of Renaris, the same world that had cried for help. He could see the smoke clearing, the burning cities slowly going quiet among the ruins. A single beacon signal pulsed weakly. The origin of Lysera's message. "Lock onto that frequency," he ordered. "I want a dropship down there the moment we clear the orbit." Meanwhile, across the Dominion fleet, panic had replaced arrogance. Admirals screamed through broken channels. "They're everywhere. They're inside our defense grid. Our warp gates are collapsing." None of it mattered. The human bombers moved with eerie silence, cutting through command ships like wind through paper. No taunts, no speeches, just a methodical rhythm of destruction. On one of the surviving Dominion warships, Commander Serac, the same officer who once doubted the laughter, watched the chaos in horror. The stars themselves seemed to vanish behind a storm of human bombers. "This isn't war," he whispered. "This is judgment." He turned to his crew. "Try hailing them. Tell them we surrender." A trembling ensign opened the channel, sending the plea out into the dark. For a moment there was silence. Then a voice answered, calm, cold, human. "Your laughter reached us first, now your surrender will wait." And then the channel went dead. From the window, Serac saw the human fleet reposition, dozens of bombers aligning above the Dominion capital world. Each ship began to glow as energy built up across their hulls, one by one. The clouds lit up blue and gold as precision strikes rained down. But this time, instead of wiping everything out, the blasts were careful, destroying military strongholds while leaving cities intact. Lysera, watching from the refugee transport near orbit, couldn't believe her eyes. The humans weren't here to exterminate, they were here to end tyranny. Her heart trembled as she whispered, "They fight like gods, but they protect like us." On the ground, Dominion soldiers threw down their weapons, running from the burning command centers. The very same voices that once mocked her now screamed in terror. The galaxy that had laughed at the myth of humans now wept under their shadow. Inside Horizon Spear, Commander Hayes received reports. "Target Grid 2 neutralized," said one officer. "Civilian centers undamaged." "Sir?" "Good," Hayes replied. "Now send the message. Let them know the age of silence is over." Kira, the ship's AI, spread the broadcast across all galactic frequencies. A single transmission echoed through every communication channel in range. "This is the United Terran Command. To the Dominion you brought fire to the innocent. Now we return it with precision. We are humanity, and we have not forgotten." Billions heard it. The message carried not anger, but a terrifying calm, the kind that made every conqueror remember fear. In the aftermath, the Dominion's fleet broke apart. Commanders abandoning their posts, entire planets surrendered before a single human soldier even set foot on their soil. Wherever the Titan bombers appeared, the war ended within hours. Hayes stood by the viewing window, watching the quiet ruins of Renaris below. He thought of the girl who had sent that message. He didn't know her name, but he knew her voice, one that carried courage even through despair. "Kira," he said softly, "dispatch a ground unit. Find the one who called us." As the human dropships descended, their engines glowing white against the smoke-filled sky, survivors on the ground looked up in awe. To them, it wasn't destruction, it was deliverance. They saw the humans not as monsters of myth, but as guardians returning to the stars. Lysera stood among the ruins, the wind blowing ash around her. She shielded her eyes as the dropship landed nearby, its hull marked with the Earth insignia. The hatch opened, and armored human soldiers stepped out, tall, silent, eyes hidden behind black visors. One of them walked toward her, removing his helmet. Revealing tired human eyes full of compassion, Lysera could barely speak. "You came. You really came." The man nodded. "We heard you." In that moment, the sky behind him filled with the wings of more bombers, a storm of humanity sweeping through the stars, bringing both fear and hope in equal measure. The Dominion's centuries of arrogance ended in 1 week. The galaxy would never forget the day the Deathworlders returned, and as the human fleet regrouped, their ships gliding in perfect silence, Commander Hayes gave one last order. "Prepare transmission," he said. "To every corner of the galaxy," Kira waited. "Message content, sir?" He looked at the stars, his voice steady. "Tell them we don't start wars, but we end them." The transmission echoed across light years and everywhere. Those who had once laughed at humanity now whispered their name in fear. The Deathworlders had come home. The war ended not with noise, but with silence across the Dominion's empire. Flames died down. The skies cleared and the endless sound of explosions faded into a calm that felt almost unreal. The once invincible fleets of the Korth Dominion were gone, reduced to drifting wreckage among the stars. And among those ashes, the survivors looked up at the sky and whispered a single word they had not spoken in centuries. Humans. Lysera stood at the edge of a broken city on Renaris, her boots sinking into the soft gray ash. The air was still warm from the bombardments, but the fires had been put out not by rain but by human precision. The ruins around her were scarred but not lifeless anymore. For the first time since the invasion, the sky was blue again. She turned when she heard the hum of a landing craft behind her. A Terran dropship touched down with quiet grace, its engines lowering the dust gently instead of blasting it apart. The ramp opened and Commander Hayes stepped out, his black uniform lined with silver, the symbol of the Earth Defense Command shining on his chest. Behind him walked soldiers carrying medical crates, repair bots and food supplies, not weapons. Lysera's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but her voice broke. You came for us." Hayes looked at her, his weathered face calm but filled with sorrow. He nodded slowly. "You called for help." "We answered." She looked down, trembling. "I didn't think anyone would hear me. I thought humanity was gone." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried both pride and pain. "We were never gone, we just stepped away, waiting for a reason to return." Lysera's gaze moved past him to the horizon, where huge black bombers rested on the plains like sleeping beasts. Their shadows stretched for miles, symbols of power and protection. "Why did you come back now?" she asked softly. Hayes looked at the ruins, his eyes reflecting the burned remains of a civilization. Because you reminded us who we are, he said. We built our peace on silence. But peace without honor is only sleep. When we heard your voice, we remembered what we once swore to stand against cruelty. No matter where it hides, for a moment there was only the wind between them, carrying the faint sound of rebuilding machines in the distance. Human drones floated through the ruins, repairing broken towers, clearing debris, and planting new energy cores in the ground. The air smelled of ozone and steel instead of smoke. Human engineers worked alongside surviving Vren, sharing tools, sharing smiles, no longer strangers. Lysera walked toward a small hill overlooking the ruins of her old communication tower. At its top, the broken transmitter still stood, the same one she had used to call for help. Now humans were repairing it, turning it into something new. A galactic beacon, not of distress, but of unity. Hayes joined her there, watching the workers below. This tower will send a new message, he said quietly. A message the galaxy won't forget. Lysera turned to him. What message? He looked at her, his eyes steady. That humanity has returned, not to conquer, not to rule, but to remind everyone that mercy and strength can exist together. A nearby technician waved. Commander, the beacon's ready. Hayes nodded and handed the control tablet to Lysera. You started it, you should send it. Her fingers trembled as she typed the words, her voice soft but sure as she spoke into the transmitter. To every world still afraid, to every people who has suffered under the Dominion. You are not alone, we are humanity, we don't start wars, but we end them. The message echoed through the stars, carried by relays, satellites, and human bombers still drifting in formation across the system. Every planet that received it paused to listen. Some wept, some cheered, and some, those who had once laughed at the myth of humans, fell silent in awe. On distant worlds, hidden colonies and oppressed species began to rise again. Encouraged by the return of the Deathworlders, for the first time in generations the galaxy dared to hope. Lysera lowered the transmitter and looked at Hayes. What happens now? He looked up at the sky, watching the bombers ascend slowly into orbit. Now, he said, we rebuild, we protect, and when the stars call again, we'll answer. As the human fleet departed, their engines left trails of silver light across the sky. To the survivors of Vrenorus it looked like dawn, the first true dawn since the fire. Lysera stood there, the wind tugging at her hair, watching until the last bomber disappeared into the clouds. She whispered, thank you, knowing they could not hear, but believing they somehow would, far above in the quiet of space. The human ships regrouped near Mars Command, their hulls glowing against the sun. Commander Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the transmission feed repeat across the galaxy. Kira's voice broke the silence. Message completed, Commander. The galaxy knows, Hayes nodded slowly. Good, he said. Let them remember. And for the first time in 100 years, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter. Humanity was no longer a forgotten myth. They were a promise, a warning, and a hope, a promise whispered in smoke, carried through ashes, born from a single desperate voice, a warning to all who would bring tyranny again, and a hope to every world that still believed in light. The galaxy would remember this day forever. The day humanity rose from silence, the day the Deathworlders returned, and the day a burned world found life again.